Hi, and welcome to part one of the Simon and Gert Zarky family tree video. My name is Philip Jackson, great-great-grandson of Simon Zarky. This video is being filmed in January of 2022. It is best viewed on a computer rather than on a phone. And with that, let's go ahead and get started. So here we have the first and only known picture of the full Zarky family together. And as we zoom in, we can see Patriarch Shimon or Simon, matriarch Gert or Gittel, oldest son Alex, Max, Jacob Zarky, who would later change his name to Henry Jackson, and my great grandfather, and then youngest Joey Jackson. We can tell from this picture that Joey looks to be about 2 years old, so we know it was taken about 1894. And we are lucky that the photographer put the name of his studio at the bottom in Shulman in Baltimore, Maryland. So one fact that we know for sure is that the family was in Baltimore, Maryland in 1894. But the family would have many travels and many adventures across the globe in an area where travel was not always the safest nor the most convenient. All right, so let's take a look at where the family comes from. For all the Zarkys in the world, and there's not that many of them, as I'm sure you know by now, they all originated from Lithuania in a city that used to be called Vilkomer back in the 1800s, but today is known as Ukmergė. And it is located between Kaunas or Kovno, as it was known back in the 1900s or 1800s, and Vilnius. And all the Zarkys will originate there, including our family. So we have the marriage certificate or a record of the marriage certificate of Simon and Gittel Zarky. And this comes from a website called jewishgen.org, Gen, and they have indexed and translated to English all these records from the original Russian and the original Yiddish. So we do know that Simon's father's name was Shia, which is also Ishaya or Isaiah in English. And then Gittel's father was known as Benjamin or Benjamin. So we can now take the family tree one generation back. They married in 1881 while they were in their mid 20s. So soon thereafter, we now have the birth of their first two sons almost back to back. So Tova Zarky is Alex Zarky. He was born in March of 1882, which was just 10 months after Simon and Gittel got married. And again, we can see the name of the grandparents as well. Tova means goodness in English. And then Woolf Zarky is Max Zarky's birth record. He was born 18 months later in September of 1883. And you can see that they were both born in Kovno, which was nearby to Vilkomer or Ukmergė. And we even have the detail of who did the bris on young baby Max was Yosel Vitkin. So that's a really kind of neat, interesting tidbit that we have access to. All right, so at this time in the early 1880s, things were not good for Jews in an economic sense, or certainly in a political sense, and they were not always the most welcome in the Russian Empire. So that was the beginning of an exodus of Jews from Russia, including our family, and they went halfway across the world looking for economic opportunity in a city called Ballarat, Australia. Now we know they arrived in Ballarat by 1886, is that's when my great grandfather Henry Jackson or Jacob Zarky was born. Now I don't have a record of that birth certificate, but that's not necessarily uncommon. So Ballarat is in the southeastern part of the country, about an hour west northwest of Melbourne. There's a synagogue there that the family lived near, and that synagogue is still in existence today. All right, so after 1886, we know the family's there. The next sighting of the family is 3 years later. We have a passenger manifest from Melbourne to Sydney in 1889. And if we zoom in and look down at the bottom, we can see S. Zarky or Simon Zarky was taking this trip, presumably for business, between Melbourne and Sydney in 1889. And then 3 years after that, in 1892, we have an incredible find. We have Joseph Zarky's birth record, the youngest son of Simon and Gert, and the youngest sibling. So we'll scroll in here to look at more details. He was born on March 3rd, 1892, The family lived on Peel Street, which was near the synagogue. Joseph was his name. Simon Zarky is the father. His occupation here is listed as a fruit hawker. Hattel or Gittel, Klaus was his mother, Gert Zarky. And over here we also have another cool aspect is we have Simon Zarky's own handwriting. So S. Zarky wrote this on the actual birth certificate from 1892. From here, the story continues the next year in 1893 with another passenger record. The Zarkys are on the move from November 4th. So this is 18 months after Joseph is born. And this is a ship that's leaving Australia and headed to London and Cape Town. And as we look in steerage and we scroll down, we can see headed to Cape Town, is Simon Zarky with Alex at 12 years old and Max at 11 years old, and they're headed to Cape Town. So the family, or part of the family, is leaving in 1893 for South Africa. Now, we know by the next year in 1894, coming full circle with that first photo that we saw, was that the family the next year, 1894, was in Baltimore in America. Because we know, again, it was in Shulman in Baltimore, 1894. So whenever they went to South Africa in 1893, it was for a short amount of time. But we know they make the trip back to South Africa within 5 years later by 1899. All right, that's probably enough information for this very first video. Just to review everything, here's the timeline of what happened in Lithuania starting in 1881. And then the family left for Australia by 1886. And here are some of the items that happened by 1893. We know they went to Cape Town, but didn't stay in Cape Town long, and then wound up in Baltimore in 1894. And then the next part of the story is that they will wind up in South Africa by 1899, and we'll cover that content in the next video. If you'd like to get in touch with me or be in contact, my name is Philip Jackson. You can see my contact information up here. All these records are kept on Ancestry.com. I just kind of piece it together to put this video for some easy understanding and knowledge. And based upon those birth records, I now have one generation back that we have Ishaya Zarky is the oldest member of the family we know, and Benjamin Klaus was the father of Gert Zarky, so he's also of that same generation. Alrighty, thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.